I'm sure you've heard by now, Justin Trudeau accepted a massive personal gift from someone he barely knew. The gift was a luxury vacation for Trudeau, his family, and other Liberal insiders on a private island in the Bahamas owned by a billionaire religious leader called the Aga Khan. And then shortly afterwards, Trudeau was doing favors for the Aga Khans, including cutting million-dollar checks to him from the Treasury for the Aga Khan's projects. Oh, and Trudeau and his staff illegally hid this from the ethics commissioner and lied about it to journalists, outright lied about where he had vacationed. So it all finally came out yesterday. The ethics commissioner released her report on the subject, guilty as charged. Well, guilty is a word we reserve for the criminal courts, and charged, again, that's a word we associate with police and crimes. Trudeau hasn't been charged criminally yet. He's only had the lightest of wrist slaps from the gentlest little lamb called the ethics commissioner. Let me tell you what sections of the law Trudeau violated. The law is called the Conflict of Interest Act. It's Canada's basic anti-corruption law. Trudeau is the first prime minister in Canadian history to break that law. I'm going to read directly from the Ethics Commissioner's report now. Then I'll show you Trudeau's reaction to it. Then I'll show you the media's reaction to that. Then I'll tell you a bit more about Sophie Trudeau and how she just wrung out the Aga Khan for free stuff for her and her celebrity friends while the Aga Khan was lobbying Justin Trudeau for millions. And then I'll ask you a question. So there's a lot to cover. Let me get straight to it. Let's start with the ruling yesterday. Trudeau broke the law. He broke the Conflict of Interest Act. Let me quote from the Commissioner's report that she titled the Trudeau Report. Section 5 of the law requires that a public office holder arrange his or her private affairs in a manner that will prevent the public office holder from being in a conflict of interest. I found that Mr. Trudeau failed to meet the general duty set out in Section 5 when he and his family vacationed on the Aga Khan's private island. Pretty straightforward. Taking a $100,000 private island vacation, it's probably what that would cost in real life. Taking it from a billionaire who was lobbying the Canadian government at the time, that's a conflict. That's crooked. Of course it is. Next, subsection 11.1 prohibits a public office holder or a member of his or her family from accepting any gift or other advantage that might reasonably be seen to have been given to influence the public office holder in the exercise of an official power, duty, or function. Paragraph 11.2b provides an exception from this prohibition where the gift or advantage is given by a relative or friend, but I found that the personal relationship between Mr. Trudeau and the Aga Khan did not fit within the concept of friend as contemplated by paragraph 12.2b. I'm almost done here. I found that these gifts could reasonably be seen to have been given to influence Mr. Trudeau in the exercise of an official power, duty, or function, and therefore that Mr. Trudeau contravened subsection 11.1 when he and members of his family accepted the Aga Khan's gift of hospitality and the use of the private island. Okay, there's a lot there, but it was important that I read that to you. See, Trudeau claimed that he was old friends with the Aga Khan. Oh yeah, I knew him from decades when he was a kid. And it's true. If you were friends, let's say you had a millionaire friend that you've known since you were a kid, and you would always vacation at his summer place. And your families were friends, and they'd come over for Christmas, and you go over for New Year's, and you had a close relationship. Should you really have to stop visiting your friend at his beautiful house just because you become prime minister one day? No, that wouldn't be fair. So there is a true friends exception to the rule because you're already existing friends. But let me quote to you what the ethics commissioner said about friends. This is very important. Let me read it to you. The evidence shows that but for the Aga Khan's attendance at Mr. Trudeau's father's funeral in 2000, Mr. Trudeau had no private or personal interactions with the Aga Khan between 1983 and the fall of 2013, a span of 30 years. As well, there was no evidence that the Aga Khan ever tried to contact Mr. Trudeau in those 30 years, including when the Aga Khan made official visits to Canada while Mr. Trudeau was a member of the House of Commons, nor is there any evidence that Mr. Trudeau's mother or brother had, except for the funeral, any personal interactions with the Aga Khan after 1983. Nothing. They were not friends. Trudeau met him when Trudeau was a schoolboy. Then, other than a handshake at his dad's funeral, that was it. It was a lie by Trudeau to get around the fact that he and his grasping wife were milking the Aga Khan for free stuff. Oh, his old friends. No, he's not. The Aga Khan didn't mind one bit, by the way. When you're trying to get $55 million out of the Canadian government, you'll let the Prime Minister's vain wife party at your Bahamas house for a weekend. Sure you will. I'll tell you more about Sophie Trudeau in a moment. I'm emphasizing her because she has a special place in this story. You can only imagine what she's like when she wants a vacation now.
And I know that good will prevail, and I could conquer the world with all the love that I feel when you smile back at me, when you smile back at me.
I think she thinks she's Celine Dion in real life, a celebrity. Imagine her unleashed on a billionaire who really wants something from her husband's government. I bet Sophie Trudeau forced all the staff at that private island to listen to her karaoke and to applaud her. What a weird gold digger, her and her vain husband. I'll explain why I'm emphasizing her in a minute. But back to the law. Here's the next part of the law that Trudeau broke. Section 12 prohibits ministers and members of their family from accepting travel on non-commercial chartered or private aircraft unless certain exceptions apply, namely travel required as part of the Prime Minister's official duties in exceptional circumstances or with the prior approval of the Commissioner. I found that Mr. Trudeau contravened Section 12 when he and his family accepted travel provided by the Aga Khan on private aircraft. The travel was not required as a part of his official duties, the circumstances were not exceptional, and he did not seek the prior approval of the Commissioner. Well, of course. I mean, Donald Trump has his own private jet and private helicopter, but he pays for it himself. When someone lets you fly on their private plane or private helicopter, it is an enormous, luxurious personal favor. Again, such a vanity move, such a fake celebrity rich move. It has no purpose other than to butter someone up, someone who's so narcissistic. Again, if they were old friends who always partied like rock stars this way, the law grants an exception, but they weren't. It's just the Trudeaus feel entitled to live like billionaires, and the Aga Khan was fine with that. You could almost say that the Aga Khan played them. Oh, they're into living like the Kardashians? Pretty easy to use that personality quirk to get things that you want from them, don't you think? I mean, if you were asking the Canadian government for a check for $55 million. Look at that. Do you see that maximum contribution? $55,150,000. Do you see it there? For their foreign project. And you're asking for other favors along the way. You'd throw a few hundred G's at the Prime Minister's grasping wife, too. You bet you would. Frankly, that's a lot cheaper than hiring a fancy lobbyist in Ottawa. And you'd know how to manipulate that corrupt regime from now on. Just give the wife baubles and she'll lobby her husband for you. Okay, back to the law. Section 21 requires that public office holders recuse themselves from any discussion, decision, debate, or vote on any matter in respect of which they would be in a conflict of interest. I found that Mr. Trudeau contravened Section 21 when he failed to recuse himself from two discussions which he had an opportunity to improperly further the private interests of the Global Centre for Pluralism, that's owned by the Aga Khan. Shortly before, Mr. Trudeau's family had vacationed on the Aga Khan's private island. Now let me tell you about the Aga Khan. He's no fool. He's 81 years old. He's the spiritual leader of 25 million people. He is a billionaire. He is a businessman. He is a philanthropist, a diplomat of sorts. I rather like him. I've never met him. He's the most liberal, progressive, peaceful Muslim leader in the world. Very pro-Western. It's the Ismaili Muslims. So I'm a fan of the Aga Khan. I'm just saying, he's not interested in partying with a juvenile Justin Trudeau and Sophie Trudeau. He's 81. He's just interested in getting his $55 million or something for the Aga Khan Foundation or whatever. Let me give you an example of how a serious man in his 80s operates. Again, this is from the report yesterday. In September 2016, the Aga Khan made a telephone call, followed up with a letter asking to have Mr. Trudeau intervene as Prime Minister in a diplomatic matter involving a Canadian corporation and a foreign country. The Aga Khan concluded his letter with a wish that he and Mr. Trudeau could soon meet on his island. That's how you do business when you're an 81-year-old billionaire. It was business. He wanted something from Trudeau. He wanted a favor for a corporation in a foreign country. Oh, and come by my place and let's meet in the Bahamas. In the same phone call. The Aga Khan knew how to operate Trudeau. Push the vanity button, push the luxury button. Trudeau loves taking vacations. His wife is a striving gold digger who thinks she's Celine Dion. That's how you get to Trudeau. One more quote from the report. In my view, the evidence clearly shows that there was an ongoing official business between the Government of Canada and the Aga Khan at the time each invitation to visit the island was accepted, and that Mr. Trudeau, as Prime Minister, was in a position to be able to advance some of the matters of interest to the Aga Khan, whether he did so or not. This leads to the conclusion that the gifts could reasonably be seen to have been given to influence Mr. Trudeau in the exercise of an official power, duty, or function, unquote. Of course. It wasn't just one vacation. They partied there on the island in Christmas of 2014. Then in March of 2016, Sophie Trudeau herself just called up and asked if they could party in the island. Let me quote from the report. In February 2016, Miss Gregoire Trudeau reached out to the Aga Khan's daughter and discussed the possibility of Miss Gregoire Trudeau vacationing on the island during the month of March. On March 11, 2016, Miss Gregoire Trudeau, a friend of hers, and their children arrived on the island for a week-long trip. Mr. Trudeau did not take part in that trip. In a written submission to my office, the Aga Khan stated that neither he nor any other member of his family was present on Bell's Cay at that time. That's the name of the island. So a week-long trip for the whole family and friends of the family. And what's the point of a trip of a lifetime if you can't have it again and again in your lifetime on command? Let me read more from the report. In mid-July 2016, this is just a few months later, in mid-July, Miss Gregoire Trudeau contacted the Aga Khan's daughter and inquired whether her family would be able to vacation on Bell's Cay at Christmas. Mr. Trudeau said they chose to vacation at Bell's Cay as it offers security and privacy for himself and for his family. The Aga Khan's daughter told Miss Gregoire Trudeau that she and her family were welcome to vacation on the island and informed her that she and her family might be there as well. Later on, Miss Gregoire Trudeau asked if they could invite friends to join them on the island, and the Aga Khan's daughter agreed to this. Okay, enough from the report from now, but you have to see how much it was, how often it was, how entitled it was, how greedy it was, how narcissistic it was, how the Trudeau side was all about being grifters. And the Aga Khan side was all about, getting their $55 million from the Canadian government or a diplomatic favor. They weren't even there. It's a pure bribe. They're not friends. The Aga Khan shook his hand once in 30 years. And Trudeau lied about this. Of course he did. You know, our friend Joe Warmington broke this story a year ago. He heard that something was fishy, so he kept asking the Prime Minister's office, where is the Trudeau family? Where is the Trudeau family? And they kept lying to him. Look what Joe tweeted last January. This is from January 2000, almost a year ago. The PMO said he was flown to Nassau. He is taking private time with his family in the area. That was an email they sent to Joe. I guess it's technically true, in the area, but he really wasn't flown to Nassau. He was flown to there and then on to the Aga Khan's private island called Bell's Cay. They were hiding this fact. Of course they were hiding it because the rules, you see, they only apply to the little people. Joe Warmington knew something was up. He kept digging. You know, Gerald Butts, Justin Trudeau's principal secretary, tried to tell the media to shut up. Oh, there's nothing here to see. This is what he tweeted in May. He said, MPs from all over Canada finally get a chance to ask the Prime Minister a question. They all ask about the Christmas vacation. It's May. Well, the grifting had gone on for years, though, hadn't it? But Butts thought that, maybe there was a 2-day expiration date after which you can't ask about ethical breaches. And they lied enough to get by Joe Warmington for a little bit and to get by the media for a little bit, because it's a bit tough to talk about helping the middle class if you're partying on a billionaire's private island at all, let alone when that billionaire is lobbying for money and other favors, and the Prime Minister is in on the decisions for that, and your wife just won't stop asking for more.
And I know that good will prevail, and I could conquer the world with all the love that I feel when you smile back at me, when you smile back at me.
"Oh, darlings, do you mind if I come by for another vacay? I'm so tired. Can I come by for a week with my family, my extended family, my in-laws, and my friends and their friends?" It's just, sure, absolutely. Cheaper than hiring a lobbyist. So what did Justin Trudeau have to say about all this? He's the first prime minister in history to be found to have broken a federal law 4 times. A law against bribery and corruption, literally called the Conflict of Interest Act. Listen to this stumbling, bumbling buffoon.
How could that not have occurred to you, with all due respect? You were going to take a free holiday from someone you consider a friend, but obviously you have a different definition of a friend than the commissioner. You knew that they had a lobbying registry, that they were set up to lobby the government. How could it not have occurred to you that that might not have been okay?
The fact is, we work. Sorry, let me just try to reorder the thoughts. We worked with the lobby conflict of interest commissioner on a regular basis on a broad range of issues when the issues come up. On this issue of a family vacation with a personal friend, it wasn't considered that there would be an issue there. Obviously there was a...
Yeah, of course he's corrupt. Of course he's entitled. Maybe he doesn't even realize it, because that's sort of how he always is. That's all he's ever known. He always just takes what he wants because he's a Trudeau. Because people will give it to him for various reasons his whole life. You know, he's a trust fund kid, son of a trust fund kid, never did an honest day's work in his life, always had someone else picking up the tab, always had someone else cleaning up the mess. And people were always happy to pay because they got something in return, access, prestige, whatever. But that doesn't go when you're in charge of the public trust, when you just got played by a foreign billionaire who cracked your code pretty quick. Oh, this guy's a grifter. Just give him and his wife whatever they want, luxuries. Yeah, spend a few $100,000 on private jets. He'll give you tens of millions of dollars in return. Trudeau stammers in his press conference, and his written response wasn't any better. Let me read his 2 tweets. His first was, "Today's report from the Conflict of Interest and Ethics Commissioner makes it very clear I should have cleared my family vacation and dealings with the Aga Khan in advance. I'm sorry I didn't, and in the future, I'll be clearing all family vacations with the Commissioner's office." All right, so is he going to pay back the billionaire for his personal luxury vacations, or are you just going to bank that? I mean, we had a multi-year trial over Mike Duffy's expense account, which, by the way, was actually paid back by Nigel Wright. Trudeau just gets to keep the gift here. He gets the vacation, he doesn't have to pay for it. Of course, he's Trudeau. Here's the second part of Trudeau's tweet. He said, "I've always considered the Aga Khan a close family friend. That's why I didn't clear this family trip in the first place. Given the Commissioner's report, I'll be taking all precautions in the future." Don't lie, you liar. You met him once in 30 years. You never called him. He never called you. You were not close family friends. You're a liar. And the ethics commissioner said so in a devastating way. But that phrase, "I'll be taking all precautions," as if accepting a bribe were something done to him, as if his wife was trapped, as opposed to this being done by the Trudeaus. They're so crooked. Big story, huge story. The ethics commissioner was kind enough to Trudeau to wait until Parliament was over for Christmas, so no prickly question period. Hey, thanks, ethics commissioner. You took 12 months to do your report. You could have come out with it a couple weeks earlier, or who knows, it could have been released after the Christmas break, but release it in the dead zone of Christmas. So, and right after the recent by-elections in Canada too. We don't want those people thinking Trudeau's a crook. That's an inside job, wasn't it? Is this a big story? What do you think? Of course it is. But let's look at some front pages from across the country. Let's start with Montreal, second largest city in Canada, Trudeau's hometown. Front page of the Montreal Gazette. Can you spot the story there? It's 6 tiny words on the left-hand side. You see it there? Trudeau broke ethics rules, watchdog fines. That's it. Look at the Calgary Herald, biggest paper. The Chronicle Herald, the biggest paper in the Atlantic, which of course is 100% Liberal MPs, including Seamus O'Regan, who took a free trip with Trudeau to the island. Not one word about it on the front page. Not one word. Toronto Sun, my favorite newspaper in Canada, not one word about it on the front page. Vancouver Sun, third largest city. Small box in the top right. You see that? Watchdog bites PM. Vacation broke ethics rules. Okay, I guess that's something. Not a word, though, on the front page of the other Vancouver newspaper. Not one word. It wasn't a total blackout. The Globe and the Post had it on the front. I will grant that. Funny enough, the Toronto Star had it top of the page. Great, clear headline. Look at it right there. PM's private island trip violated ethics rules. Got to give credit to the Star. Even though they're Trudeau lovers, that is an honest and clear headline. If it were Stephen Harper who was convicted of 4 breaches of the corruption law, of taking bribes, of lying about a friendship to wring out gifts and grifts, if Lorraine Harper were the First Lady that was revealed to have been a striving, grasping, gold-digging Prime Minister's wife, wringing out registered lobbyists for her lifestyle, for her fake Kardashian friends, do you think that it would be the front page everywhere? Do you think the calls for Harper's resignation would be endless until it happened, certainly till he paid back every cent? Do you think the RCMP, in fact, would be pressed to lay actual criminal charges if it were Stephen Harper? Oh, but you know the answers already, my friends. You know the answers, but I said I'd end with one more question. And it's this. Do you still wonder why Bill Morneau thought his corruption was acceptable, why he could lie to the ethics commissioner, why he could lie about his villa in France, why he could lie about his blind trust? You still wonder how that can happen? Justin Trudeau has brought back the culture of corruption, Libranos style. It's not just him and his staff, it's the whole rotting system. A fish rots from the head down, which is why half the media in the country are already burying it. And by January, they'll be calling this boring old news. That's an excerpt from my daily TV show, The Ezra Levant Show. Normally it's behind a paywall, but I thought you'd like this video, so we put it on YouTube. If you want to subscribe to watch the daily show every day, including always 2 interviews a day, and I read my hate mail, just click on this screen and become a premium member.